My best friend, Emily Summers, who had always been terrified of dogs, suddenly told me she was planning to buy one. That's when I knew she had been reincarnated too. In my previous life, I had bought a pure white toy poodle from a pet shop. From the moment that little dog entered my home, everything in my life turned around. Morgan Hale, our manager, who had always been at odds with me, suddenly offered me a promotion and a raise. Even the client I'd been struggling to win over for months personally requested to sign a deal with me. But the most unbelievable change of all was that Silas Sullivan, the company's tall, rich, and handsome CEO, got down on one knee after a party and proposed to me, saying he wanted to marry me. I said yes and even invited Emily to the wedding to witness my happiest moment. However, driven by jealousy, she stabbed me to death on the day of the ceremony. Why should someone like you get to marry a CEO while I'm stuck working 3 shifts a day like a damn slave? She screamed. The next time I opened my eyes, I was back, standing beside her at a pet shop, looking at dogs. That toy poodle is so adorable, sir. How much is it? I'll take it, Emily blurted out. Inside the bustling pet market, she rushed up to the shop owner without even asking the price before claiming Snowy, the fluffy white poodle, for herself. Then she quickly scooped it into her arms, clutching it as if she feared I might take it away. Watching her, I instantly knew she had been reborn too. Emily beamed as she cuddled Snowy, then gave me a triumphant glance. Sorry, Mia. I know you wanted this dog too, but I beat you to it. Now I'm going to be on a roll, get rich, and who knows, maybe even meet my Prince Charming. She was glowing with excitement, the gleam in her eyes screaming victory. I just looked at her calmly. I never wanted that dog. The very next day, she brought Snowy to the office and wasted no time showing it off to everyone, making sure to glance in Morgan's direction while doing so. Sure enough, Morgan gave us both a surprised look. You bought that poodle? But I thought you were afraid of dogs. Emily jumped in immediately. Me? Afraid of dogs? Never. I love these cute little poodles. I'm going to take care of her forever. Morgan's expression shifted slightly. After a brief pause, she told Emily to bring Snowy into her office. When Emily came out, she was practically skipping. Mia, you'll never believe it. I got promoted with a raise. I'm going to be your direct manager from now on. Soon I'll be handling major projects, becoming a top executive, and eventually marrying. She stopped, but the pride on her face was impossible to miss. Then she smirked. As for you, you'll just be another corporate workhorse, slaving away at your 9-to-9 grind forever. Don't even dream about competing with me. With that, she picked up the poodle and strutted out of the office. I watched her leave and let out a quiet laugh. If she wanted the luck Snowy brought so badly, she'd better be ready for the disaster that came with it too. Emily basked in her newfound glory. The HR department announced her promotion and raise. Leadership praised her repeatedly, calling her competent and capable. Within days, clients came knocking, all asking specifically to work with her. Emily strutted around like a proud peacock, chin held so high she could barely see anyone else. Mia, you must be so jealous right now, huh? Too bad you're not as pretty as me, or as talented. My advice? Suck up to me now. Once I marry into a rich family, I might let you be a maid in my house. The rest of the team whispered among themselves. Has Emily totally lost it? She got a minor promotion and now she thinks she runs the place. She claims she's going to marry into a wealthy family. Please. She got a dog and suddenly thinks she's a socialite. That's nothing. She's been bragging she'll be Mr. Sullivan's wife. Everyone mocked her behind her back, convinced she was delusional. But I knew the truth, everything Emily said was true. She really was about to marry Silas Sullivan. And that would be the beginning of her nightmare. Soon, after landing multiple major deals, Emily became the company's top salesperson. To celebrate, the company threw a cocktail party. Emily was ecstatic. She remembered everything from our past life, that at this very event, Silas had fallen in love with me at first sight, confessed, and proposed. Overnight, I had gone from invisible employee to the future Mrs. Sullivan. This time, Emily wouldn't let that happen. She dressed to the nines, wearing almost the exact same gown, heels, hairstyle, and lipstick I'd worn that night, except for one crucial thing, Snowy. As soon as she arrived, she locked her eyes on Silas. When he turned toward her and began striding over, she batted her lashes and leaned in coyly. "Mr. Sullivan, where's the toy poodle? Why didn't you bring it with you?" he asked sharply, grabbing her wrist. "Where's the dog?" Emily froze, stunned that Silas even knew about it. It wouldn't stop barking today. "I thought it wasn't feeling well, so I brought it to the pet hospital," she stammered. She wasn't lying. She had indeed taken Snowy there, but unlike me, she hadn't cared for it. In our past life, I had nursed it carefully, feeding it soups, checking on it constantly, until it grew healthy again. Emily, however, only saw it as a lucky charm and had quickly grown impatient. Silas's face darkened. "How could you just dump it at a pet hospital? That place is full of animals? How is it supposed to survive?" "But it is an animal," she blurted out. "Shut up," he snapped, yanking her by the wrist and dragging her out, ignoring the stares around them. Driven by curiosity, I followed. At the hospital, we found Snowy barking frantically inside a cage. The moment it saw Silas, it grew excited, tears glistening at the corners of its eyes. Emily quickly tried to put on an act. "Oh, my sweet little Snowy. Mommy only left you for a tiny bit. Don't be scared." Under her soothing voice, Snowy calmed down and Silas's expression softened. "I never would have guessed you were so kind-hearted," he said. "I like girls with compassion. Tell me, do you have a boyfriend?" Emily's cheeks flushed. "No, Mr. Sullivan. I mean, Silas." A small smile appeared on his lips. He returned the hug gently, though I caught a flicker of disgust in his eyes. Then the vet called Emily over to settle the bill. She forced a smile and left, and Silas's face instantly turned cold again. He leaned toward Snowy and murmured, "Just hang on for another 2 weeks. After that, it'll all be over." My heart clenched. 2 weeks? The next morning, the office was buzzing. Emily actually snagged Mr. Sullivan. He confirmed publicly that she's his girlfriend. They're getting married soon. Then Emily walked in, dressed head to toe in designer brands, sunglasses perched on her nose. "I told you I'd marry rich," she bragged. "I'm the CEO's fiancée now." She strutted up to me. "Mia, you must be dying of jealousy. We used to be the same, but now look at me. Go get me a glass of water." I stood up calmly. "You've only met Silas once, and he already wants to be your boyfriend? Doesn't that seem strange to you?" "What's strange about that?" She snapped. "Beautiful women attract successful men. You wouldn't understand," she jabbed a finger at my forehead. "And just so you know, I'm getting married to Silas in 2 weeks. I'll officially be Mrs. Sullivan. If you know what's good for you, start kissing up to me now or I'll have you fired." I went to get her the water and handed it to her with a polite smile. "Here you go, Mrs. Sullivan." Delighted, she laughed and poured the water over me before strutting away. My coworkers fumed, but I only smiled faintly. 2 more weeks. I wanted to see how long her arrogance would last. Finally, the wedding day arrived. Emily video called me, flaunting her dress. "Mia, I bet you've never even seen a gown this beautiful or a diamond this big. You're just poor and pathetic." I ignored her words and focused on the background. No altar, no garden, no piano. Just a black crucifix. The exact same setup I'd seen before. So it was happening again. The truth behind Snowy's so-called good luck was about to be revealed. As I stared at the screen, a soft female voice came from off-camera. "Silas, is this really necessary?" A woman's voice asked, low and careful. Emily tilted her phone, giving me a skewed glimpse of a small chapel, black candles and iron sconces, a velvet runner, the black crucifix on the far wall. The camera steadied on a woman in a cream suit with a clipboard and an air of ceremony. She wasn't a priest. She looked like legal counsel dressed for a funeral. "It's tradition," Silas said. "Come." "Certain. We do it before midnight." The call cut off. Emily had either ended it on purpose or someone had taken the phone from her. For a few seconds I watched my own reflection in the dead screen, heart thudding. Then I noticed something in the paused image, a narrow stained glass panel with a black lily worked into its stem. I knew that window. It belonged to the private chapel on the 35th floor of Sullivan Tower, the one reserved for family events. I grabbed my coat. By the time I reached the lobby, security had tightened. A velvet rope, 2 receptionists, a new guard with a tablet. I didn't bother with the elevators. The service stairs were cramped and hot, but they didn't ask questions. On floor 32 I slipped through to a corridor and fell in with a small catering team rolling linen-draped carts. "Late ad," I said, tapping the corner of a dessert tray. No one looked closely. No one ever does when you're pushing something with wheels. The chapel doors were ajar. I eased in behind a column. Emily stood at the front in a dress that could blind a room, crystal beading, a skirt like spilled milk. Silas faced her, immaculate in a black suit, expression unreadable. The woman in the cream suit, the one with the clipboard, stood to one side. A man I recognized as the Sullivan family's fixer waited near the back with 2 bodyguards. The crucifix loomed above them all, matte and heavy, swallowing light. "Shall we begin?" the woman asked. "We'll keep this brief. Ms. Summers, please hold out your right hand." Emily smiled as if this were all delightful theater. "Is this where we do the vows?" "In a sense," the woman said. "We'll exchange rings in a moment. First, the binding." My stomach turned. A junior assistant entered carrying a small hard-sided carrier. Inside, Snowy gave a thin whine, the kind that shreds your nerves even if you hate dogs. Emily startled, then pasted on a smile. "Oh. You brought her," she said, pitching her voice sweet and airy. "Silas wanted our baby here, didn't you?" Silas glanced at the carrier. "She's part of it." "Part of what?" Emily laughed lightly. "The photos? I mean, sure, I wanted a flower dog, but—" "Ms. Summers." The woman in cream opened a leather case. She set out a black velvet box, a slim pen, and a small silver lancet. "Please sign the consent and then we'll proceed." "It's standard. Every bride signs." "Consent to what?" Emily's smile wobbled. "You didn't send me any." "It's a family right," Silas said, voice soft. "It keeps what's ours intact. It ensures prosperity for the household. You said you wanted to be part of the household." He said it the way people say please when they mean do not make me ask again. Emily's eyes flicked to the diamond on her hand, to the crucifix, to the carrier. She squared her shoulders. "Of course. Anything for you." The paper was short. I could read upside down from where I hid, an indemnity clause, a confidentiality provision, a line about symbolic offering and binding of fortune. No mention of what the offering was. No mention of who bore what. Emily scrawled her name, letters slanting with excitement or nerves. "Good," the woman said. She snapped the case shut and then snapped it open again, a tiny, practiced bit of theater, and lifted the silver lancet. A pinprick. A drop on the bride, a drop on the token. "Token?" Emily echoed. They opened the carrier. Snowy pressed herself flat to the floor of the crate, eyes wide, paws trembling. When the assistant reached in, she didn't snap, didn't bark. She just went very still the way animals do when they've learned stillness is safer than hope. "Hold her," Silas said to Emily. Emily gathered Snowy up, careful not to smudge her lipstick on the fur. The dog's heart slammed so fast against her palm I could see the tremor in Emily's wrist. "Right ring finger," the woman in cream said. Emily offered her hand. The lancet clicked. A bead of blood bloomed bright as a berry. "Now the token," the woman said gently. "On the brow." Emily hesitated. "Isn't that, I mean, she's just—" "It's symbolic," Silas murmured. 2 drops, 1 vow. Then it's done." He sounded almost tender. I heard the same undertone I'd heard at the animal hospital when he told the dog to hang on for 2 weeks. Not love. Anticipation. I stepped out from behind the column. "That's not a wedding," I said. "It's a transfer." The fixer moved first, a subtle half-step, then the bodyguards. Silas lifted a hand without looking. They froze. "Mia," he said, almost smiling. "You always did have a good sense of timing." Emily whipped around, Snowy cradled like a prop. "What are you doing here?" "Watching," I said. "Same as last time, remember? Only this time, I know how it ends." Emily rolled her eyes. "You mean happily ever after?" "Yes, it does. For me." I ignored her and looked at Silas. You hitch your family's fortune to whoever takes responsibility for the token, then you bind the luck to your bride so the line stays clean and the stock price keeps climbing. The animal carries the backlash for 14 days. After the ceremony, the bride does. I nodded at Snowy. That's why you wanted her present. That's why you didn't kiss Emily before tonight. You wanted the clock to run out so all the good stuck and all the bad fell on her. The woman in cream didn't flinch. Ms. Carter, you're trespassing at a private event. Correction, I said. I'm a witness. Silas considered me. Interesting word. Emily laughed too loudly. She's jealous. She always has been. Don't listen to her, Silas. Let's finish. Where do I put the drop? On the dog, I said. And then on yourself. That's the real vow. And after that? The headaches. The bruises that won't heal. The mysterious exhaustion. The untraceable organ failure. The obituary that mentions a brief illness no one can name. For a heartbeat, the room was very quiet. One of the black candles guttered and flared as if someone had breathed too close. That's insane, Emily whispered, but her voice had gone thin. Is it? I asked. Think back. 2 weeks ago you could barely keep a houseplant alive. You dumped Snowy at the hospital because she was too fussy. And yet your luck soared the minute you claimed her. Promotions. Clients. A CEO who never looks twice at anyone said the word fiancé. Because I deserve it, she snapped, clutching Snowy harder. The dog winced. Silas sighed, almost bored. This is dull, Mia. Step aside. Tell her, I said to him. Tell her what happened to your first wife. A small smile touched the corner of his mouth. Which version? The press release was quite moving. The woman in cream cleared her throat. We are off schedule. Ms. Summers, a drop on the token, please. Emily lifted her bleeding finger. Snowy's eyes met mine, dark and wet and scared, and something in my chest tore. Don't, I said. Why not? Emily's chin jutted stubbornly, but her hand shook. You want me miserable forever? You said it yourself. No, I said. I want you to choose with your eyes open. Enough, Silas said softly. He stepped forward, took Emily's wrist with a gentleness that frightened me more than any threat, and guided her hand toward Snowy's brow. I moved. The nearest bodyguard lunged. I veered, slammed the dessert cart into his knee, and felt it connect. The second one grabbed for my arm. I twisted out of his grip and caught the edge of the carrier with my hip, sending it clattering to the floor. The dog startled, Emily yelped, the lancet flashed as the woman in cream reached to steady it. I was at Emily's side before anyone recalculated. Snowy, I said, voice low, the way I used to say it when she had nightmares in the middle of the night in that other life. Come. The dog wriggled hard, panicked and desperate, and then, as if some old filament between us lit, leapt into my arms. The black candles hissed. For a split second, something seemed to pull in the room, like a tide reversing. The air thinned. The crucifix on the wall looked deeper, blacker, as if it had opened a mouth. Put the dog down, Silas said, and now there was no softness at all. Emily grabbed for my hair and missed. Thief. You can't bind what isn't yours, I said, backing toward the door with Snowy pressed to my chest. You need the keeper's will. That's the part you never put in writing. Silas's eyes went flat. You think this is about paperwork? The fixer touched his earpiece. Footsteps pounded in the outer hall. I didn't have a plan beyond keep moving. The chapel doors slammed as the guards outside reached them. 2 new men shoved through, bigger and faster. The woman in cream snapped shut her case and stepped neatly out of the way. Mia, Silas said, almost weary. Stop running. I did the opposite. I turned, cradled Snowy tight, and sprinted into the corridor, toward the stairs, toward air, toward anything that didn't smell like iron and lilies. Behind me, I heard Emily shout, Silas, do something. And his answer, quiet and clear. After midnight, it won't matter. I hit the stairwell door with my shoulder, stumbled down 2 flights, and nearly collided with an older man in a dark maintenance jacket carrying a mop. He blinked at me, then at the white dog in my arms, and stepped aside without a word. Snowy trembled against me. I could feel every heartbeat. 2 more landings. My lungs burned. Footsteps chased, closer. Somewhere above, a bell sounded the quarter hour. 11:45. 15 minutes. I tightened my grip, pressed my cheek to Snowy's warm head, and kept running. I burst through the loading dock door into night air that tasted like rain and hot metal. The alley was a canyon of concrete and humming vents. Snowy burrowed tighter into my coat. Behind us, the door banged open. Footsteps. Shouts. The maintenance man from the stairwell appeared at the end of the alley, waving me toward him with 2 quick chops of his hand. He keyed open a side gate and held it. I slipped through. "This way," he said, voice low, eyes on the door we'd just come from. His badge read P. Ortega. Cameras loop for 60 seconds when the dock cycles. "Do you know what they're doing up there?" I asked as we hurried along a narrow service lane. "I know what they call it," he said. "And I know what it costs people who think it's just theater." He didn't look at me. "Get to the street. Crowds help." We hit a freight elevator that opened into a half-lit corridor stacked with folded tablecloths. As we passed a red pull station on the wall, Ortega's shoulder brushed it. The alarm didn't scream, but somewhere above us a door magnet thunked and a fan roared to life. He didn't break stride. "Sprinkler pretest," he said mildly, as if answering a question I hadn't asked. "Adds 10 minutes of confusion if anyone goes back in." I wanted to thank him, to promise him something I couldn't name, but the elevator doors slid apart and delivered us to the marble maw of the ground floor atrium. Security swarmed the revolving doors. 2 black sedans idled out front. Through the glass, I saw Sullivan Tower's private drive empty except for the cars and a fountain that threw water in pale ribbons. Ortega nodded toward the service exit on the far side. "That one." We were almost there when Silas stepped out from behind a pillar. He looked as composed as he had in the chapel, suit uncreased, expression cool. The only sign he'd been running the same building as the rest of us was a faint sheen at his temple. "You've made your point," he said. "Put the dog down." I adjusted my grip. "No." He glanced up at the atrium clock. 11:56. "Let's be rational," he said, as if we were negotiating terms on a contract instead of life. "You don't win by dragging this out. You win by accepting the inevitable and minimizing damage." "To whom?" I asked. "Me? The dog? Your bride?" His mouth softened, almost a smile. "Everyone benefits when order is restored." "Order," I repeated. "Is that what you called your first wife's obituary?" His eyes didn't flicker, but the men in suits shifted minutely. They were listening too. 4 minutes, he said softly. "Then wait," I said. Emily stumbled through the inner doors in a flurry of tulle and bad footing, hair a little wild now, makeup too bright under the atrium lights. The woman in cream followed, murmuring into a headset, eyes scanning angles. Emily spotted me and barreled forward, stopping a few feet short as 2 guards moved to intercept. "Give her back," she said, breathless. "You always ruin everything. You're sick with jealousy." "You don't have to do this," I said. "I want to," she snapped. "I earned this. I finally get something good in you." 3 minutes, Silas said. I lifted my phone and, without looking down, thumbed the side buttons twice. The camera shutter clicked. The little sound was absurd in that big space, but the woman in cream's gaze snapped to it. "Recording in the building is prohibited," she said. "So is trafficking in people," I said. "If we're measuring." I hadn't filmed the chapel. I hadn't needed to. When the woman had opened her case, I'd taken 3 quick photos, the clause headings, the lancet, the seal on the leather. Not proof that would stand up in court, not yet, but enough to raise questions in the right inboxes. 10 minutes ago, as I ran, I'd forwarded them to a person who always read faster than anyone else, Morgan Hale. "Enough," Emily said, voice going shrill. "Silas, tell her to give me the dog." 2 minutes, he said, and for the first time a thread of impatience ran under the words. People from a late event filtered into the atrium, couples, a trio of interns with lanyards, a security supervisor guiding a lost guest. Heads turned. Phones hovered. I watched Silas see it too, the way a story grows legs when it gets oxygen. You're not the first, I said to Emily, quieter now. You won't be the last if you don't step away. But you could be the last if you make it so. I don't believe you, she said. The words were automatic, a reflex. Her free hand trembled. He loves me. Silas didn't bother to lie. He checked the clock again. 60 seconds, he said. I took a breath that hurt. Emily, look at me. Her eyes jerked to mine. In the last life you killed me, I said. You put a knife in me because you couldn't stand watching me breathe a life you wanted. You can spend this life proving you're the same person, or you can put the drop back in your body and walk out. It wasn't fair to ask her to be better than the girl who had stabbed me. It wasn't fair to ask anyone to leap over their worst moment with an unprepared heart. But it was the only bridge left to us. She swallowed. Her gaze flicked to the diamond on her finger, then to Silas, then to Snowy's small face buried in my coat. 30 seconds, he said. The woman in cream inclined her head. Ms. Summers, time to decide. Emily lifted her bleeding finger and stared at the faint crust of red at the pad. Her lips parted. Then she stepped back. It wasn't dramatic. She didn't denounce anyone. She didn't throw the ring. She just took one stumbling step backward and shook her head, tiny, fierce. No. The word seemed to pull a wire in the room. Silas's attention slid from her to me with a coldness that felt like weather, not temper. For a heartbeat I thought he might risk it anyway, snatch Snowy, smear a drop against fur and call it done. Then the atrium clock shifted forward with a soft mechanical clunk and a bell chimed midnight, sweet and old and indifferent. Nothing happened. No smoke. No lightning. No visible curse breaking. Just the quiet, ordinary defeat of a plan that required time and consent and secrecy, and now had none of those things. Silas let out a breath through his nose. Very well. He turned, already leaving, already subtracting us from his math. The woman in cream closed her leather case and fell into step. The bodyguard split, one pair angling to block the service exit, the other escorting their boss to the waiting car. Wait, Emily cried, voice going high. Where are you? We can still, Silas? He didn't look back. The sedan door opened. He got in. The car pulled away, smooth and silent. Emily stood in the wake of it, staring at the empty space like it might give her a different answer if she willed hard enough. Then she blinked, and it was like someone had flicked off a spotlight. The show left her face. She looked suddenly human and very young. I thought it meant I was finally special, she said, barely audible. You are, I said. Just not like that. She laughed once, angry and wet. You must be thrilled. I'm tired, I said truthfully. And I'm going home. She wiped at her cheek with the heel of her hand, leaving a small streak of mascara near her ear. When she looked at me again, there was something like shame in her eyes, and something like relief. Keep her, she said, almost a whisper, and turned away before I could answer. I didn't chase her. There are apologies that only time can carry. Outside, the city had gone damp and cool. I called a rideshare, then cancelled it and started walking. Snowy's breathing slowed. By the time we reached the corner, she had fallen asleep, nose tucked against my wrist, trust a warm weight I hadn't earned tonight but would spend a long time trying to. My phone buzzed. A message from Morgan, 3 photos, highlighted, forwarded, subject line tagged urgent. Under it, a short text. I had my suspicions. Thank you for the nudge. Don't come in tomorrow. I smiled. It wasn't a punishment. It was cover. Morgan loved nothing more than a clean trail between truth and consequence. At home, I made tea I didn't drink. I set Snowy on the couch on a folded towel and washed the dried blood from my own fingertip where the lancet had grazed me in the scramble. When I came back, Snowy opened one eye, decided I was still me, and sighed herself boneless again. I thought of the first life, the ring, the applause, the knife. I thought of the second, of stairs and black lilies and a word said at the only second it could matter. I thought of luck as a coin passed palm to palm until someone forgets the hand attached to the skin the coin warms. I picked up my phone and drafted a note to the animal hospital, records transfer, new owner on file, microchip update. Then I opened a blank message to Emily and stared at the cursor until it steadied. I typed 2 sentences. I didn't save you. You saved yourself. I didn't send it. Not yet. Some bridges need daylight and space. When dawn came, the city felt washed. News trickled through the group chats: security drill at Sullivan Tower. Emergency systems malfunction. A rumor about a private ceremony cut short. Later, a crisp internal memo landed in our inboxes from the board: a temporary leave for the CEO, pending review of governance practices during private events. It was corporate language, cool as glass, but it had Morgan's fingerprints on it. I took Snowy to the park before the streets filled. She trotted beside me on a too-big harness, ears pricking at pigeons, at a jogger's shoelaces, at the universe. When we sat on a bench, she put her head on my knee as if she'd been doing it for years. You can't fix people by dying for them, I told the morning, and maybe I told the version of me who had learned that the hardest way. You can only choose better. Snowy sneezed, which I decided to take as agreement. My phone vibrated one more time. Unknown number. I almost let it go. Then I answered. Silas didn't bother introducing himself. You made an enemy, he said, like a simple fact. I made a boundary, I said. Boundaries are fragile things, he said. They break? So do myths, I said. Ask your board. A beat of silence, then a soft amused exhale. Enjoy your dog, Miss Carter. I intend to, I said, and ended the call. Snowy's tail thumped against the bench. I scratched the spot behind her ear she liked best. The sun edged up, gold on glass and river, and the kind of ordinary morning you don't realize is a miracle until you've lost it once. 2 lives had taught me one thing: luck is a loan with interest. Tonight, finally, the debt wasn't mine. I stood, clipped the leash, and we walked on.